This is a severe weather alert from WWL Louisiana, sponsored by Egan Insurance Agency.
All right, here we go again. 448 tracking a new tornado warning in Tangipahoa Parish. If you are just joining us, this tornado warning is going to be in somewhat of the rural parts of Tangipahoa Parish, but it does include some spots. So what we've got going on here, we've got these little bitty cells that are interacting with the boundary, and there's just enough rotation. These are essentially mini supercells, and that's as simple as we can put it. And so we've got two spots I'm watching. This is the one they currently warned. It's going to be just north of Robert, lifting on 445. We've also got this other cell that we're going to keep a very close eye on, because you can see the classic hook. That is a rotating storm as well. It's very tiny. It's going to lift over the Hammond Airport. That's where the radar is. That's the radar dome. And so that's going to lift right over it. Here's Hammond, here's I-55, here's I-12. And so the current tornado threat, there's two cells I'm watching. One's just now crossing I-12 outside of Hammond. The other one is lifting north of Robert and lifting along Highway 445. This is going to be moving up towards Highway 40, and there's LaRanger, and lifting northwest. And so just like the last one that we had that was reported closer to Hammond, these can have very quick little spin up tornadoes. Now, we don't have anything confirmed with this one right now, but nonetheless, they went ahead and warned it for that potential that it could try to spin up. And again, I'm watching two separate cells. One's not currently included in the warning, but that one is. And you can see there they've just done a little update on that warning. What does it look like on the velocity or the winds? Well, not terribly impressive. None of these have been terribly impressive this morning, and certainly not strong, but there has been some rotation. The rotation I'm seeing right now with this storm, oh, these are the messiest cells I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so we've got our two cells. Clear as day. There's one right over the radar right now. The reason it stops is because we don't get data the closer you get to the radar. There's a radar hole essentially, and so you lose data the closer you get to it. But this little cell's rotating, and then they warn that one further up to the north. I think if we are seeing tornadoes with these, they're very quick-lived, short, little spin-up tornadoes essentially. They can toss around trees and debris. They can do some roof damage to house. Usually these are going to be on the much weaker side, EF0, EF1 occasionally, but they're not anything too strong. There's not a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere, at least not a lot of strong wind shear in the atmosphere with what's going on. So they're going to, I'm assuming they're highlighting this cell for that potential tornado itself, lifting along 45. Okay, so if I'm in LaRanger here, I'm going to go ahead and be ready to go to my safe spot in a moment's notice. As this continues to lift northwest, it's moving at around 25 miles per hour, about 20 miles an hour. So this warning officially runs until 5:30. I don't think we're probably going to see it last that long. It will probably be discontinued before that, but that's what we've got. They were saying a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located just north of Robert and moving north at around 20 miles an hour. So that's the little cell. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but there's been a little bit of spin in some of these. And again, if you were watching at about 4:15, we had this cell that was sitting just outside of Hammond, close to the airport, where we did actually have radar detecting debris. We are still working to confirm. We have not had any confirmation, and we have not heard anything from the Tangipahoa Emergency Management. We called them. They said they haven't had anything reported either. Now, sometimes how these things go is they hit in rural areas, and you don't know there's actually damage until the sun comes up because it just hit trees. So that may end up being the case with the cell that moved just on the outskirts of Hammond earlier and up towards Independence. This one's a bit further to the east here, just north of Robert, is where we're currently tracking that area of rotation. It would be right under that sign there that says 445, and it's lifting north. So if you are waking up this morning, these will trigger your cell phones for those automatic alert sounds. Sometimes you hear them if you're just outside of it. So if you're in Folsom or Covington, you're in the clear here. You don't have any problems. You don't currently have any problems in Hammond proper, Tickfaw, and Independence is probably okay with how we're seeing things now. It's going to be this corridor, which is east of Highway 51, east of I-55, that this ongoing tornado warning continues. Again, they issued it until 5:30, but that's in 40 minutes, and I don't see this lasting another 40 minutes with what I'm seeing. I also don't see any clear-cut significant rotation in this. That's where it would be. This general area is the area of spin they were tracking, so it would have been just crossing Highway 190 at around 445. So that was about 8 minutes ago, and since then it's lifted just to the west of Highway 445 here, going down to Robert. That would be the area of spin, messy in there, and again, lifting northwest at around 20 miles an hour. We can put a track on this to see if there's anything out here that's currently in the path of this potential tornado. I'll draw this track on it for you. You can see, well, there's not a whole lot out here for our radar to ping on. So let's drive this north at around 20 miles an hour, lifting up. So this is a rough estimate. Now, the ones you're seeing here are farther up. LaRanger 515, closer to LaRanger Middle School, to give you some idea of where this could be going, around 515 as well. Not sure it's actually going to last that long, but that is currently within the polygon or the tornado warning that is ongoing there. Update from the National Weather Service. They are just going to continue this warning, I suppose, until it expires. These have so far seemed like they've been quick spin-up tornadoes that haven't lasted long if they have actually formed, and they spin themselves out pretty quickly. But we are seeing these, they're essentially mini supercells is what they are. You can see the tiny structure of them where you get this hook echo, comes down to a point, you get inflow here, outflow, little spin in here, and there's this existing boundary in here too, and I think that's what these are doing. They're riding along this boundary, and you're getting these quick spin up. Now, if you live north of this tornado warned area, it is coming down. We've got a lot of rain through Tangi and over towards St. Helena and off into Livingston Parish. We currently have flash flood warnings for those areas. That extends all the way down into the outskirts of Baton Rouge. This corridor has picked up around 5+ inches of rain overnight, and so that continues to be the flood threat. If you live south of the lake in New Orleans, right now there's hardly anything going on. We don't have any rain falling in the metro right now. There's been a couple showers overnight, but nothing heavy, nothing severe as these lift north. It's been really on the North Shore where the main show has been this morning here as these rotating mini supercells continue to track to the north. I'm reading an update from the National Weather Service. They are talking about the cell that's currently sitting right over the Hammond radar itself. So what's happening probably is this cell is sitting south of this cell, which could actually choke off this one and this one become more dominant. Now, you can't see it right now because it is literally sitting over the radar. Once it moves north, you'll actually see it once it gets out of this little dead zone around the radar. But this is the current tornado warned storm. This is the one I've been watching. I think this one could actually take the inflow from that one, and so this one may end up be the one that's trying to rotate more as it lifts to the north. Again, this is a fairly rural area of Tangipahoa Parish. I can zoom in, and so the airport, the radar is at the airport. That's currently probably where we're waiting to see what this cell actually looks like once it passes past the radar here. It's, again, currently sitting right over the radar dome itself. This is Highway 190, so if there is any spin developing with this southern cell, it's going to be right over the airport at the moment, and this is probably a little further north now. The radar is about 2 to 4 minutes delayed depending on what scan you're looking at. That will continue to lift north here. If you live in areas around the Hammond Airport and north of the Hammond Airport specifically, I would say you do need to be in your tornado safe spot. That just means go to an interior closet, get away from windows. You don't want to be near any exterior walls. Better safe than sorry. And most of the time, the problem comes from debris that can impact your house or you. And so that'll continue to lift north. You can see there the radar updating. It looks so messy because, again, the storm is sitting right over the radar, and so your scans get a bit messy when the actual storm is in such close proximity to our radar that's right there at the Hammond Airport. So the Weather Service says they're going to continue this warning. This is going to go, it officially goes until 5:30. I'm not sure they'll keep it that long, but let's just hope better safe than sorry here as we track it. The radars are not showing any substantial rotation. They're showing weak areas, and I think they're being cognizant and they're being so careful with these because in that 4 a.m. tornado warning, we did see radar indications of debris lofted. Now, we don't know whether it's probably little leaves. It could have been something as small as a leaf off a tree. And occasionally you can get some bigger things and stronger tornadoes, but that's what we saw earlier, and that was lifting just on the west side of the airport, lifted north, went right out to the east of Natalbany and up towards 442, and then we think it dissipated somewhere in here as it traveled parallel to Highway 51. And so there's the trimmed tornado warning. They continue to trim it back some. I do think this is the cell we're primarily watching at this point. It's now lifted just north of the airport, and by just north, by a couple neighborhood blocks. It's sitting north of the Hammond Airport. That's going to be some moderate spin in there, and this cell is likely starting to get choked off by this one, and so this one will probably just become more of just some rain and occasionally some gusty winds. What's interesting is you can see there's not even lightning in these thunderstorms. These are not clear-cut thunderstorms like we see during our severe weather season where they have a lot of lightning, they have hail. Not seeing any of that. There's just enough spin in the atmosphere that it doesn't take much to get these storms to spin up here on the Gulf Coast and in Louisiana and into Mississippi. And so we will we'll just continue to watch these little cells. Now, if you do have reports of damage, if you are waking up this morning and noticing that maybe you have a tree down or something and you live in the Hammond area, do let us know, not necessarily right now for these storms, but for that earlier one, let us know because we need to relay that information to the National Weather Service. I put out a call on social media for any reports on damage, and we aren't seeing anything. We aren't seeing any reports coming in, which is interesting considering that radar was showing some debris being lofted in the atmosphere about 40 minutes ago. Again, that was for a cell that was further to the west, closer to Hammond, and lifted through here. These are further east by a couple of miles. That cell there has got some minor rotation. That one is messy as well. It is 5 o'clock this morning. You are now watching the WWL Louisiana Morning News as we kick things off. We've got the whole team here. They're getting ready to. The Weather Service, guess they're going to keep these tornado warnings going. These are, I was talking about earlier, these are some of the poorest looking little cells I've ever seen with regard to a well-defined signature for rotation. That doesn't necessarily mean they aren't rotating though. These are just very, very tiny little cells that spin up quickly and they can spin down just as quickly. And whenever you look at this, there's, again, no defiant or definite areas of intense rotation with these. I don't even call them thunderstorms. They don't even have thunder. These little weak cells that are lifting to the north. So this is one and that's one. And if you've tracked radar long enough, you know typically what you're looking for. You're looking for the greens and red to meet. We do have some minor areas of that, but these are very, very weak signatures from what I'm seeing at the moment. And so I don't think these are going to be anything strong if they are actually forming. A tornado is a tornado nonetheless, but right now you just don't have any well-defined radar circulations or signatures at this hour.